So as you begin to conceptualize your living inquiry assignment, consider the purpose of the method you're using in your work and think that methods do something. So for example, photography gives the ability to get extremely close, to look intimately with a material and illuminate its structures. So here you can see the sharpness of blades of grass, the crisp lines that cut across an image, and the contrast of color that accentuates it. I can move with my camera or even subtly edit photos to enhance the qualities that I'm noticing in a lived moment in a way that echoes the essence of this lived phenomenon and perhaps brings vibrancies to its dimension, new ways of paying attention that perhaps I hadn't considered before. So in this way, photos are particularly impactful in enhancing the pedagogical momentum also of an inquiry with children, and the depth of attunement within a moment. So to really get inside something and to get to know this moment in new ways. So we're not only using photography to represent something or to tell a story, but also to enhance a pedagogical momentum or an inquiry that you're engaging with children. Photography can be very intimate. It can get very close to something in a still image. So noticing those tiny details of a moment that are magnified and realized with new dimension, and that brings new detail to life in a different way. So videography allows for different ways of noticing. In videography, there's a natural sense of movement and opportunities to experiment with how movement is enacted, how it performs. It's similar to photography in that we can experiment with various angles and positions, selecting particular orientations and seeing, but we have other methods of experimenting here that photography may not offer us as intensely. We can play with speed, time, slowing down the video, or perhaps speeding it up to illuminate something of interest. So in this video, I'll show you, I was able to speed up the moment of moving sea foam, moving along the shoreline to better trace its pathways. I wanted to pay attention to its formations and how its movements shifted. It moved naturally extremely slowly, yet in playing with my video camera and its features, I was able to exaggerate the movement of sea foam and attend to its movement in different ways that I couldn't have done without the use of a video camera. So as we read in Sylvia and Adrian's article this week, videography can have a particular dramatizing quality. It can be enlarged and projected to give a sense of being there and to illuminate something. So when we think about video, again, we're not thinking about it as a direct representation of what happened, but as a method which actively composes and co-composes with an active thinking in doing and in making. So in the article this week, Sylvia and Adrian write that they use video not as if we're looking back on something that already happened, rather in ways that brought movements to life again in the viewing so that the viewer could enter the experience, feeling the movements, the sounds, and the tempo of the repetitions. And this is how video becomes a powerful pedagogical tool to use in an inquiry with children. So juxtaposing clips of their videography and gathering these clips in ways which provoke an attention to something to reinvent and gather new meaning, Sylvia and Adrian also projected the video poem on the wall to enliven the inquiry and bring children into a lived quality of research as enacted, embodied, and haptic. So nourishing an animate quality of something and, as McClure writes, adding liveliness to a phenomenon. So in this way, videography is very much a part of the construction of knowledge. It's not merely a presentation of pre-existing truths or ideas. And by this, I mean that literally meaning is made in the doing, in the making, and how methods create realities. So there's a constant making and unmaking at play in filming and in viewing. a folding and unfolding of worlds. So there's a moving image that's in a perpetual flux. It's never static, and it's very much resistant to a single perspective. So in Miriam Cooley's article this week, she writes, "This mechanical eye is not merely a transparent recorder of life events." And I think this is a particularly important quote to think with as we experiment with videography in our work. So there are 3 links posted in Moodle this week. One is a short film called Figures by Tom Killingback, and it speaks to his attention to everyday life in Hong Kong. In this video, when you're watching it, pay attention to how he echoes the rhythms and configurations of the architecture and moving bodies in Hong Kong in his work, in his video. So pay attention to his choice of music, graphics, his use of juxtaposition, repetitions, and tempos, and the lines that he creates through video. Also, there's a link to a video poem by Tess Gallagher called Choices. And in this video, she creates a particular tone in her film to enhance the essence of her experience. So she uses the use of color, slowness, and sound to gesture towards something. And as you're watching, consider how she uses poetics and artistic expression to gesture towards something, to encourage us to pay attention to something. Also, there's a link to Juana Cordova's work. She's an Ecuadorian artist, and she uses speeds and slowness in a way that's a little bit different than the previous 2 videos. So these artists have very different ways and different styles of interpreting their lived experiences. But I'm not expecting your work to look like this, but what I am hoping that in showing you these pieces is that you might take some inspiration from their experimental qualities and play with your methods of research to provoke new thought and unfamiliar ways of seeing a phenomenon. So as you're watching these videos, pay attention to how the artists are using rhythm, repetition, juxtaposition, their choice in audio, and how they create a particular tone in the composition of all of these elements and how they come together. And also consider the provocation. What is it that the artist is trying to draw our attention to through this method? So all of these artists are using videography as a method of reenacting something in a way that draws us into a concept. And though they're not coming directly right at it or being direct or cliche about this experience, they're asking us to pay attention to something through the poetics of their videography. So as you move into your inquiry assignments, consider how you might illuminate a theme through method, how you might invite new ways of attending to a particular concept through the methods you choose and through a poetic language.